We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome back to This Song Is Yours. Happy New Year, happy 2025, and I hope you've all had a wonderful holiday break over the December and January period. I am your host, Simon Fink, and it's so great to be back for another year of celebrating the incredible art of songwriting and the music that connects us all. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I do want to take a very quick moment to reflect on the huge year that we had in 2024. From incredible guests and some really special episodes to record shopping with certain artists like Miss Kanina and Sly Withers, and then also heading to conferences like Big Sound and South by Southwest Sydney, it was honestly a truly unforgettable year for the podcast. I am thrilled to let you know that 2025 is shaping up to be even bigger and better. We've got an exciting lineup of guests already planned for the next few months, and we've got some special projects and some surprises up our sleeves. So make sure you're following us across all of our socials and that you subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss a thing. Now let's dive into our first episode of the year. Kicking off 2025, we're joined by the incredible Alex Kapranos from Scottish indie rock legends Franz Ferdinand. The band is back with their 6th studio record, The Human Fear, and we were lucky enough to chat with Alex last October about this brilliant new record. In today's episode, we're discussing the inspiration and the songwriting choices behind The Human Fear. We're also going to talk about the exciting addition of brand new band members Audrey, Tait and Dino, Bardot, and how they've brought a fresh dynamic to the band. Of course, we couldn't chat with Alex without asking about when we'll see Franz Ferdinand bring The Human Fear down under for their Australian fans. Now, we want to say thank you to Lucy and Tom for their help with today's episode and remind everyone that The Human Fear is out right now. You can find links in the show notes on where you can purchase the record and follow the band across all of their socials. While you are there, don't forget to follow us too and subscribe to stay up to date with all of our upcoming episodes. All right, I'm not going to bore you any longer. Let's kick off the new year in style. Here is our chat with Alex Kapranos from Franz Ferdinand.
But we lean against each other. Life's never gonna be easy, but if you're living it with me, we're gonna live it up night or day. Well, I wanna live.
Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Alex Kapranos from Franz Ferdinand. Alex, hello, sir. How are we?
Hello. I'm very, very good. Thanks for having me on.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm very, very excited to be chatting with you today. Obviously, just about all things Franz Ferdinand and the fact that there's a brand new album called The Human Fear out. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, I'm glad to be sharing it with the world and glad you've had a chance to hear it.
I was very, very lucky to be able to have a bit of a listen before it's come out, so I feel very blessed for that. How are you feeling with this new record coming out? The band has been putting records out now for over 20 years with, I think, the first one back in 2003. Has that process changed a lot for you since, I guess, that first record?
Oh gosh, yes and no. I guess I've always approached every record slightly differently, but it still feels like, I don't know. It feels like sort of one continuous process as well. Like it's and also I find that as a musician, there are ideas which are constantly evolving, and there are things that I was developing like pre-Franz Ferdinand, which are still appearing on this record. It's funny, like there's a song on it, Tell Me I Should Stay. The bass line on that song actually wrote in about 1996. So like, it's funny because you have these things that are flying around your head, or just I always presume that other musicians are like this as well, but I've never actually spoken to any about it. But for me, that there are, it's like I do keep notebooks and I do keep kind of recordings and voice notes and all that sort of thing, but I also just store a lot of it in my head. It's just in there. And sometimes like I'll be working on something. So like for example, that song, I had the feel and the chord progression and what the melody was. I was like, but I need some kind of like bass line that's got a good feel that's going to like bring it all together. And then suddenly that bass line pops in my head, which I tried on a song like 30 odd years ago, whatever. It's like, oh no, that bass line is actually going to really work. And it's one of those sort of things at the time I remember tucking it away at the back of my head, kind of go, that's going to be useful one day. And I think maybe musically I'm like one of those people who are a hoarder, like people who will keep electrical cables or bits of string or old carrier bags, like store them in cupboards around the house. I think I'm like that with musical ideas. Like I've just got them all just like hoarded away in every crevice of my mind, and because I know that one day they're going to be useful, and I was proven right in this case.
I absolutely love that, though. I think there is, well, firstly, I think you and I might be similar in terms of keeping, all the cables and keeping everything in case someday it works out or there's some use for it at some point. But I absolutely love that there's obviously a musical capacity to that as well with yourself, and that we have kind of got this album. It is a brilliant record. It is the first one in a number of years. I want to mention that Always Ascending came out in 2018, and I know that there was a Greatest Hits in 2022, but this is the first original music since Always Ascending. So 6 years. Curious, I guess, do you feel that the break was needed between the records and kind of writing this new one?
Well, it wasn't wanted. I didn't think it would take that long between records, but there were two major factors. Well, kind of three in a way. I suppose one was all the touring. We did all the touring after the last record. We did quite a lot of touring. Then there was COVID. We'd agreed to do this Greatest Hits record. So I thought, yeah, that'd be a fun thing to do. I didn't think it would take that much time, but like the combination of doing that and COVID, like it knocked at least another 3 years into the process. Like as we tried to tour that record and then couldn't get on tour, then we did get on tour and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, like, during all of that time, I was still working on this album. I was still writing the songs and I guess more and more songs as well. And so, and I actually think that's a good set of circumstances for an album, because the best albums are actually kind of greatest hits albums in their own right. So like, I know our first album was like that as well. There were many songs written before the ones that actually ended up on that album appeared on that record, and that was the case for this one as well. So over those years, I suppose the ones that felt the most appropriate and the best ones ended up on the record. And it also gave the songs time to develop. So like a song like Hooked was kicking around in 2019, but like was a very unformed idea, and I just didn't know what to do with it. I had this very strong riff, this very powerful idea, but couldn't find the lyrical theme, and the lyrical theme didn't reveal itself until right at the very end, just as we were completing the record. And so while it was frustrating for me and probably frustrating for some of the fans of the band as well, that it took so long, ultimately I think it made for a better record.
I would 1000% agree with that. There are some absolutely, what's the word I want to use? There's some really big swings and some really big chances kind of taken on this record, both sonically and songwriting structurally, in a way, if that isn't the right way to phrase it. But I think they really do pay off. There are certain songs that have changes in time signatures, some songs that kind of, the structure and the way that you think that it's going to go, it doesn't. It kind of subverts your expectation, which I think really made this for such an enjoyable listen to the record. When yourself and the band are going back into the studio, how much of that is discussed in terms of the songwriting and kind of being like, yeah, let's really challenge our listeners this time, or let's try and do something that pushes some kind of boundary?
That's definitely a part of it. It's like a huge part of it, actually. But for me, it's also the execution of that is quite important as well, in a way that I don't want the average listener to notice it. And when I say the average listener, I generally mean somebody who's not a musician themselves. I just want it to be like a smooth experience, because I grew up listening to things like the Beach Boys and the Beatles and Paul McCartney and Wings and that sort of stuff. And within those songs, like if I think of something like Good Vibrations or Live and Let Die or The Second Side of Abbey Road or whatever, there's some very radical changes and shifts within the songwriting and the structure, whether it's every shift that you can imagine happens, like whether it's a time signature or key or lyrical theme or whatever. You have those radical changes, but as a listener, you don't notice it. You just accept it. It's just what happens next, and it's exciting and it's surprising. And for me, the holy grail is being able to write music which does something complex as for you as an artist, but for the listener is effortless. You know, like it should feel like kind of like, oh, you know, like to me that's the greatest achievement. It's something that's kind of like, oh, as a listener you just kind of go, oh, great, that was a nice surprise. I wasn't expecting that. Whereas as a writer, it's like you have to put a certain amount of thought into actually creating that in a smooth way. But I'm glad you picked up on it. Thanks very much. I hope most other people don't. I hope they just listen to it and enjoy it. You know, if that makes sense.
100%. It does. It definitely does make sense. And it's just, I think, because I am, and maybe, again, very lucky enough to have listened to the album before it has officially come out, was lucky enough to kind of revisit certain tracks and listen to them over and over again to be able to pick those things up. I was wondering whether you might indulge me a little bit. We are primarily a songwriting podcast, and I wanted to be like a tiny little bit selfish and ask about my favourite track on this new record. About halfway through, there's a track called Build It Up, which just has the absolute biggest swagger of 2024/2025 when the album's coming out, I want to say. Stellar track. Are you able to talk us through the inspiration behind the track?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So that song was very much a collaborative song between me and Julian Corey, who's been playing the keyboards with the band for how long now? Like nearly 10 years. And I love writing with other people because when you write with somebody else, you end up with something that neither of you would have produced on your own. And I think Build It Up is a very, very good example of that. And there's something that he does in the the chord progression, the chorus came from Julian, and the way he kind of like he shifts. It's kind of going between what's it going between? It's like an E and an A, which is kind of like a fairly standard thing. But he shifts between the minor and the major on the. I mean, he brought me this thing, and it was shifting between the major and the minor on the E in a way that I wouldn't have done myself. It was really smart. It was kind of like a very simple but effective surprise within the songwriting, which I really, really loved. And we actually combined that with with a song that I had, and yeah, so it was like two kind of like rough songs that we had that we kind of like collided together. And the thing that I'd been working on, I'd sort of it started off as a very Arabic inspired song, and the only bit of the Arabic flavor that survived into this song is there's a long guitar breakdown where it kind of goes to the guitar between the two sections, the ding diddle 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 diddle, which is very much in a kind of Arabic mode. And so that was lost in the verses. So the verses kind of came from me, and the chorus kind of came from Julian, and then we added more on top of it. And so that was musically how the song started. And this was the song that very much started musically before the lyric came along as well. And I think lyrically, Julian had the word "build it up." And was like sort of like jamming around that, and then that sort of triggered me to think, what are we going to build up? And for me, at the time I was writing it, I felt, and I still feel, that we live in an age which is, how can I put it, growing stronger and stronger against the idea of communicating with people who hold a different perspective from you. And social media and the media in general has become more and more polarized, and we tend to find ourselves seeking out people who have identical perspectives on the world to our own. And I find this extremely unhealthy. And I find that the more polarized we get, the more destructive we get, and the more intolerant we become. And I feel it's very important to be able to communicate with people who maybe don't see the world in the way that we do, so that we can find common ground and understand. And maybe if you do feel that you have a perspective that should be shared, then, well, you need to share it in a respectful way rather than an antagonistic way. And both within our personal relationships and our non-personal relationships. And that's the lyrical theme of the song, which seemed to fit the music pretty well.
100%. Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us. It is a fantastic track, and I think there were certain bits that I might have picked up on in terms of the lyrical themes and content, but maybe not to that extent. So I really do appreciate you sharing, I guess, that level of that granular level of detail. There was some press just as the album was announced that I think you had said that this was one of the most cathartic, or what was it, the most like life-affirming record that you've made in terms of in the band, and one of those experiences. Are you able to elaborate more on that in terms of, I guess, how that came about and how that plays into the overarching theme of the human fear?
Yeah, I think on two different levels it was extremely life-affirming. Both, the theme of the album revealed itself after the album was complete. It was when I was like reassessing the lyrics, and that line from the song "Hooked," I've got the fear, I've got the human fear, jumped out. I realized that yes, every song on this record is talking about overcoming a particular type of fear, and there is nothing more life-affirming than overcoming fear. And in fact, we seek out fear in our lives so we can overcome it. Like whether it's watching a horror film or riding a roller coaster or whatever, it makes us feel alive to feel the sensations of fear. And fear, overcoming fear, marks the greatest events in our lives as well. Whether it's asking somebody out on a date or whatever, or getting on stage to perform. Like overcoming fear is a great thing. So that's on one level that's life affirming, but also, and I think any artist who's played as part of a group or part of an orchestra or part of a set of musicians, when it's right, when it gets to that level which I think of as the Holy Grail, where it becomes no longer within your conscious mind, it's subconscious, it's subliminal, it's almost telepathic in your communication, where you don't need to tell each other what to do, you're just doing it because you think together as one unit. And when you perform like that, god damn, there's nothing more life-affirming. It's the most rewarding experience you can possibly have as an artist, and that's very much how it felt. Because making this record, I like making records where it's a band playing together in a studio or in a room, and because when you form a band, you're actually forming a new character, you're forming a new personality, and it's the combination of the personalities that you have individually, the combination of them that makes that new personality. And I love being able to capture that in a studio together, and that's the sound that you hear on that record, and getting to do that is very life affirming.
Look, I absolutely love the theme of it, and there are times where it does almost like sound palpable in the fact that you are playing that room live together, and actually like enjoying the fact that you're doing so as well. I think this was and please correct me if I'm wrong, this was the first record with Audrey and Dino on being, I guess, put on the studio record as well.
Yes, yeah. We'd had like a trial run, like when we did the Hits to the Head record, the Greatest Hits record before. We did a couple of new songs to add to that, which were Curious and Billy Goodbye, and I think they were our way of like seeing how we worked out the studio together, and it was like kind of our test run for making this record, but also touring that record. We did tour that record for a couple of years as well, and when we did that, it really tightened the band, brought us to that level where we could go in to make a record like this one. And, you know, like there's only so much you can do in a rehearsal room together. You can get really, really tight in a rehearsal room together, but to bring you to that proper subliminal level, you have to play live to an audience, because when you play together in a rehearsal room, you're very much aware of each other. You're always looking at each other, and like kind of like it's almost like you haven't taken the stabilizers off your bike until you actually get onto a stage and play together. Because when you play on a stage, you just think of the audience and you think of performing out, and you're not thinking about the other people around about you. And you're all just doing your thing. And it's only after you've done that, when you get back into the studio, that you really, really feel it, and you really feel like that almost indescribable subliminal unit, and I love it, and I'm really glad that we did that Greatest Hits record, because I don't think we could have made this record if we hadn't done that.
I absolutely love that. Well, it's definitely the album is what is the word? The album is definitely there is a certain word that I'm trying to think of and I can't quite articulate it. I feel that it has come together quite well with the fact that you've added Audrey and Dino for this record, because it has worked out very, very well. In terms of talking about a live audience, in full transparency to the people that might be listening to this episode, the album is coming out this week in January, but we might be having a chat in maybe October, so just 1 or 2 months before. Yes. You do have a few live dates ahead of you for the rest of this year, I think in South America and in Mexico. Curious for yourself, is there a track off the new album that you're looking forward to playing live or debuting live?
Well, we have played a few of them so far. I literally just came back from a tour of Mexico, and we've played 7 of the songs live so far. And I'd say the one that I'm enjoying playing most is a song called The Birds. And that's one of those songs where there's a lot of space for a different interpretation every night. And we've had a few songs like that before. Like I say, a song like This Fire from our first album's always been like that, where the space for the performance of the audience to take as much of a role as the performance of the band. And I've loved playing The Birds because you can take the dynamic down, you can take it up, and there's space for a new performance every night, and I've really loved playing that one. And it's funny because it's probably the least conventional pop song on the record as well, but it feels very dynamic and very powerful live.
It is a fantastic song, and I imagine, well, there's actually quite a few songs on this record when listening to it that I could just imagine going very, very well in the live setting. I think Franz Ferdinand has always been an incredible live act to see, so looking forward to possibly maybe seeing some Australian dates announced at some point in support of this brand new record.
Yes, we're speaking to our agent at the moment, and hopefully by the time people are listening to this, we will have announced those dates, but we're still trying to confirm them at the moment. But yes, the plans are underway as we speak.
Look, that is very exciting to hear. And again, as we've both acknowledged, hopefully those dates are out by the time people are listening to this chat, and we'll be able to include them with the conversation so they can buy tickets right after they finish listening to us talk about the record. I wanted to very quickly touch on the fact that you worked with Mark Ralph again, who I think previously produced or worked with yourself and the band on Right Thoughts. Curious just what made it right for Mark to be the person to come back into the fold for this record?
Yeah, I love Mark, like both as a human being and as a producer. I find Mark very easy to hang out with, and I guess Mark and I are of a similar generation and quite similar tastes as well. And Mark has an extremely wide and Catholic taste in music, and he's one of those kind of people that you don't have to explain any reference. Like it's not like I can sort of say, on the Fall album Grotesque, where they get that particular guitar sound, he knows exactly what I'm talking about as soon as I mention it. or it could be like, that John Coltrane thing that happened. Like he knows exactly every reference, and that's great. It's just I mean, on a professional and a personal level, that's really fun to hang out with somebody like that. I enjoyed making the Right Thoughts record with Mark when we did, but back then he was more of an engineer starting out as a producer, and in the 10 years since we made that record, he's become this super pop producer, like making these like very successful big pop bangers. And I'd presumed that he'd just gone completely into that world and didn't really want to work with bands again. And I was talking to Lawrence Bell that runs Domino Records about it, and he was like, no, I think Mark might be up for it. So I gave him a ring, and he was like, "Oh God, yeah, I'd love to make a record together." And so I'm really glad that he did, and it was just really easy. Also, Mark and I share a similar work ethic as well, which is we both have like an incredible stamina for staying in the studio. We can, I can spend like 18 hours in the studio very easily if it's going well and it's really happening. And Mark's very much of the same kind of mentality. Like it doesn't matter what else is going on in the rest of the world. If this is good, I just want to be here and doing it. And he's not the kind of guy that says, "Oh, maybe we should stop for lunch." He's if it's good, he gets lost in it, and I love that, and always my favorite. Yeah, I'm very much one of those kind of people that forgets to eat while I'm making something that I enjoy making, and he's of the same mentality.
I absolutely love that. And I think there's always something really special to be said about those people who, it's almost, and to a degree, obviously, it's a thing where you're so engrossed and so kind of in that moment and wanting to see it thrive and succeed that it is something really special. So I love that, obviously, that Mark has that quality and that you have that quality, and that it obviously worked so well with this record, The Human Fear. Alex, we usually ask our guests what they're currently listening to kind of wrap things up. Curious for yourself at the moment, what is on high rotation?
Like a few different things. I love the band English Teacher. I think they're great. Fantastic lyrics, very inventive, musically. I had an album recently. I can't remember the name of it. I should open my Spotify. There was an album of hold on, I don't know where to find it. Oh, there was an album of Colombian sort of like Colombian soul. I'm trying to think. Okay. No, I can't find it. Sorry, but you know who else I was listening to? I was also listening to Yanis Markopoulos, who's like a Greek artist who my dad was a big fan of when I was a kid, and I found a few of his records here in Paris recently, and I was listening to some of them, but also a lot of 45s. My son is a year old, and he's obsessed with the record player. He's worked out how to hit the start button on a Technics turntable, and I like to go record shopping in the local flea markets here, and so we've been listening to everything from Popcorn to Robert Palmer to the Rolling Stones. Eloise, you know that song Eloise by Barry? I can't remember his surname. Days of Pearly Spencer. Yeah, just lots of old very random 45s that make him very excited.
But I absolutely love that. Such an eclectic kind of mix in terms of, obviously, I know you mentioned English Teacher, and then kind of going on there are a whole kind of range of genres and artists there. So I think, and also just glad to hear that, you know, the youth are still interested in vinyl records in 45. Yes. So I think that's fantastic.
The funny thing is, a friend was looking after my son the other day, and he was he wanted to listen to the record player, and she didn't know how to work the record player, and so she was trying to play the songs on her phone to him, and he wasn't interested. He wouldn't have it. He was just wanted to put the phone away and just put the records on, which made me feel very, very proud.
I was just going to say, you must have been a very proud father. I can, if my son ever did that, again, similar feeling.
Yeah. It's not the phone. I want to listen to the record. I love it.
Exactly. The warmth, the kind of crackle, it's a very special feeling. So I think your son's definitely onto something. Alex, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and chatting about the brand new Franz Ferdinand record, The Human Fear. It is out at this point when people are listening to this episode. It will be out this week. But thank you again so much.
Simon, it's been a joy. Thanks very much. Really, really fun talking to you.